a boxing legend that was the heavyweight champion, inspired his fans that looked up to him. Classical boxing fights on national television, a memorable icon in and out of the ring, made an impact in the civil rights movement, stood tall within the Vietnam War refusal. Segregation affected his lifestyle he was consuming, descendant of slaves, his religion he supported, a activist with a name that's historical, one of the most significant and celebrated sports figure, started undefeated, finished with a top record, stands on a Hall of Fame for a successful career. Muslim background, had a big religious belief, earned a lot of awards he received from Ring Magazine. The greatest, from Cassius Clay to Muhammad Ali, his legacy and memory float like a butterfly and sting like a bee.
Float like a butterfly, sting like a bee. The greatest legend that boxing ever seen. Float like a butterfly, sting like a bee. The greatest legend that boxing ever seen. Float like a butterfly, sting like a bee. The greatest legend that boxing ever seen. Float like a butterfly, sting like a bee. The greatest legend that boxing ever seen. Float like a butterfly, sting like a bee. The greatest legend that boxing ever seen. Float like a butterfly, sting like a bee. The greatest legend that boxing ever seen. Float like a butterfly, sting like a bee. The greatest legend that boxing ever seen. Float like a butterfly, sting like a bee. The greatest legend that boxing ever seen. A boxing icon that everyone indicates. The greatest of all time, heavyweight champion. Out the ring, still had a successful name. A legend as known as Cassius Clay. Important person in the 20th century. Religious with an athletic history. Hall of Fame, he carried on his legacy. That person is Muhammad Ali. The greatest. Float like a butterfly, sting like a bee. The greatest legend that boxing ever seen. Float like a butterfly, sting like a bee. The greatest legend that boxing ever seen. Float like a butterfly, sting like a bee. The greatest legend that boxing ever seen. Float like a butterfly, sting like a bee. The greatest legend that boxing ever seen. Early years made amateur accomplishments for some national Golden Glove victories. Expanded his career eventually to his professional career successfully. Started undefeated, a record with many wins. High confidence before his fights began. So impressive with an inspirable performance. Always set standards in this division. So quick that opponents had to concentrate. On a different side, kept a lot of hope. Personal life is so hysterical. Considered a hero at times went on. Traveled long ways to bring hostages home. After that, earned a Medal of Freedom. Sports Illustrated on different magazines. Talented, he goes hard when he's in the ring. Came a long way for talent he received. Spoken words is still brave to compete. Tough boxer is still hard to defeat. Author freestyle, political with poetry. Music to Grammy Award nominees. And the actor wrote his own autobiographies. A lot that people would not expect. Legendary in the sport before he left. Legend. Float like a butterfly, sting like a bee. The greatest legend that boxing ever seen. Float like a butterfly, sting like a bee. The greatest legend that boxing ever seen. Float like a butterfly, sting like a bee. The greatest legend that boxing ever seen. Float like a butterfly, sting like a bee. The greatest legend that boxing ever seen. His angles was unpredictable. Quick speed made it counters difficult. Punch with big hitters, it was assumed. Knows his range for everyone that he threw. Influence from the things that he used to do. Stayed with his strategy, he was immune. From amateur to pro, potentially improved. Fight so smooth, sticking moves. A trophy holder, a champion composure. Stood on his words with a famous slogan. Float like a butterfly, sting like a bee. Combinations he would throw unexpectedly. Energy all around, tried to maintain. Smart skills, let his stamina regain. Left over right, fast with his hands. Prepared himself with a good fighting stance. Powerful strikes every time he had the chance. Focus through time, never hesitate. Taunting was a way to communicate. Joyful to watch his rounds progressively. Strong fighter, frequently taking hits. Perhaps still hard to compete against. The best in boxing, some people recommend. A good boxer, some people want to see again. Float like a butterfly, sting like a bee. The greatest legend that boxing ever seen. Float like a butterfly, sting like a bee. The greatest legend that boxing ever seen. Float like a butterfly, sting like a bee. The greatest legend that boxing ever seen. Float like a butterfly, sting like a bee. The greatest legend that boxing ever seen.
A legend that worked hard in the boxing sport, a icon that achieved a lot in this world, memorable moments as he gained a successful legacy, gone but never forgotten, the greatest champion in boxing history.